Hamilton for Tuesday, January 22nd, 2019. Please rise for the flag salute. Got it.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Roger.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law by posting a notice of this meeting on the bulletin board in the municipal building and by publication in the Press of Atlantic City on January the 10th, 2019, and the Atlantic County Record on January the 16th, 2019. Mr. Gishard?
Present.
Mr. Kurtz?
Here.
Mrs. Link?
Here.
Mr. Silva?
Here.
Mayor Shanker?
Here. Can we have a moment of silence for private reflection? Thank you. Tonight we have a guest presentation, landfill redevelopment update. Mr. Jeff Day from Land Resource Solutions.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Nice to see you. I didn't get to see you all at the reorg, so Happy New Year. Looking forward to working with you this year and making some significant progress from where we've been. So we've kind of had a little bit of a breakthrough, and I talked to Phil and wanted to come in and have met a couple times with Phil, and then recently earlier this month with Mike. You may recall, go back to kind of where we were. We've completed the investigation. We've showed the landfill is not the environmental huge problem that everyone thought it was. That's good. And we've made a couple of progress steps. Citizens Energy, who is our selected solar developer, now has a definitive power purchase agreement with ACIT and the Special Services School. So that's in place, which is good, and puts them in a position to be able to move forward with their interconnection agreement once we're got the landfill situated. And the breakthrough and the challenge that we may have, you may recall, was with the HDSRF grant and the catch-22 or the chicken and egg that existed with that, with the DEP and the EDA. It is a renewable energy grant. They had some concerns that in order to enable the project approved for the renewable energy, the solar construction, the landfill would need to be properly closed. Obviously, the grant is for hazardous discharge remediation, so it's for the closure. They were concerned, given some problems in the solar market several years ago, many years ago now, but that they would disperse the grant funds would be all dispersed, and then the solar project wouldn't get built, and they would have funded a landfill closure instead of a renewable energy economic development project, which is what the grant is meant for. Even though we are very confident and Citizens is committed to the project, particularly now that they have the agreement with the board of the schools, the concern was still there. We came up with a couple of solutions. I'm also working on another landfill project over on the east coast of New Jersey, the west coast of New Jersey, in National Park. That's a bigger project. It was started before. That was the first renewable energy application, and we came through a little bit of a breakthrough on that. And the breakthrough was that they like Hamilton. It's a smaller project, not that much smaller size-wise, but can move faster for a number of reasons. That project's got a lot of waterfront development and land use issues. So they're agreeing to fund the upfront from the remedial action. They've obviously already funded some of the remedial investigation, but the remedial action, the landfill closure, the things that we need to do are remedial action work plan, landfill closure plan submittal, two separate submittals to the DEP, and obviously the Pinelands development application. They've agreed to fund those and distribute those funds to enable that to happen. 75% of those funds, the balance of which would be paid by us. So we're in the process now of putting those estimates, updating those estimates from the application, which was submitted in 2017 by Phil with our input, and so that's the first bit of a breakthrough. The other part was that, so they were not, and they haven't released any funds on the other project yet because of this catch-22. We recently had a meeting with them 2 weeks ago with the EDA and the DEP about how would they release those funds. And we've talked in subsequent meetings in prior years about how they would be able to do that and not get in this situation. The current proposal, which isn't finalized yet, is that they could approve the grants and disperse the funds with the provision, and this is what the EDA representative, who's the head of underwriting, is checking on right now, with language in the grant that if the solar wouldn't be put in there, there would be some recourse provisions, or it would actually turn into a loan and the funds would need to be paid back. Now, we'll have to deal with that at the time. That's not going to be applicable to this first, I don't think that's going to be applicable to this first upfront cost funding, but that is a solution that allows for the funds to be made available for the actual work, or 75% of the funds to be made available.
What's the dollar amount of that?
The total project budget that we have right now is a little under $4 million. About $3 million of those are HDSRF eligible. So the rough math is about 2.3 million is the HDSRF 75% provided. And then us as the redeveloper would provide the balance. Those funds, obviously, we would finance that. It's going to be then paid back from the lease payments that come through. So we'll have a financing mechanism in place that can cover 25% of the eligible cost and then the non-eligible cost, which are things like insurance and administrative and so forth that constitute the balance. So it's about 60% of the total budget is going to be funded by the grant funds, and 40% of the budget is going to be funded by us. And then that's how that works out financially. So
the hang-up, it's not a hang-up, but if the solar does successful in there, they want to have that money refunded to them, or a portion of it?
if the solar was never constructed, was never any renewable energy built. Again, now we think that's pretty unlikely given the circumstance. We've been through meetings with Atlantic City Electric. You may remember that. We tried to do an 8 megawatt system.
Yeah, they could only handle that.
They could only handle 3. So 3 is going to be built on a landfill and go to the school. Because the grid can't handle more. It could, but the infrastructure improvement costs were $2 or $3 million in addition to, be a building.
If everything were to go the way you just laid it out, what's the time frame on that?
The time frame that I have now is that we get this funding in place, approved at the EDA's March board meeting, or we get this grant money approved at the EDA's March board meeting, and the grant closing documents go through. We start on the paperwork, the design, the permitting, and the applications. Those will be completed by second quarter. DEP 90 days to approve. And at the third quarter, we have all the approvals to construct. And then we have to just see where they are with dispersing or approving the next phase of the grant funds. But we would basically be ready to start construction toward the end of this year on the landfill.
What are they still requiring out there, considering what you've been through over these years?
Basically, it's just shaping and grading and making sure that there's a 2-foot cap on top.
They want a cap on it, right?
Yeah, it's a cap, but it's going to be a permeable cap because we have sand out there now, and we've already proved that there is no significant groundwater problem. There's some ammonia and some things like that, but I'm not going to say non-toxic, but they're right under the landfill, and there is no plume emanating from the landfill that's got any significant toxic chemicals in it that, as evidenced by, we got some 30 pairs of monitoring wells around the landfill right now. So, but in order to meet the regulations, you have to have an approved closure plan, and that approved closure plan has to be in place. When we do this design with these upfront funds, obviously our goal is to make that project smaller, the construction costs as low as we can, that will still meet the regulations. Right now, with the budgets that we just have been assumed for the applications, it's about a $3 million construction project.
We've been at this a long time.
We've been at this a long time.
Good thing I had my gray hair before you guys started.
That's right. I have some other sites that aren't not landfill sites, but other ones that are going through a municipal brownfield redevelopment process, and there are some folks that now have gray hair that didn't have gray hair when they started, including myself.
Yeah, I've been watching yours go too. So.
Is this cap approved by the Pinelands?
We think that the cap will be approved with the Pinelands, yes. We actually are discussing with them now. They are in a position where they want us to submit the data that we have, and they want a $5,000 escrow for their professionals, and that's not a problem. We're now in a position to do that. So we expect that we're going to be providing them with that information. They'll start their review process while we're doing the design. After we get our approvals from the state, that's when we would file. So we have all the DEP approvals that I mentioned. We would then file a development application with the Pinelands Commission. So that would probably, that's why the Pinelands is going to be the last approval. I'm cautiously optimistic that we could get that in the end of the third or the beginning of the fourth quarter of this year.
Including this new money you're talking about, how much has been invested in that to date?
It's about, well, since we got involved, it's about $900,000.
How much?
$900,000.
And Land Resources was in it before, right?
Yeah, right, yep. Yeah. Now that's grant monies, and then.
That's grant money, correct.
And then there's about $100,000 of costs that we have in so far.
We got about $1 million into that,
About
right?
$1 million so far, right, yep. Okay, any other questions?
Yes, when you say we are going to provide the rest, does that mean our township is going to provide the
No,
rest?
no, us, the redeveloper.
The redeveloper?
Land Resource Solutions is a redeveloper right now. We'll probably set up a development entity, and we'll be in here talking to you about that, which is an entity that would do the project. We usually do that on every project. We start out with our operating business doing as the redeveloper, and then once we get ready and we bring in some financing, we'll set it up with as a development entity, so. And yeah, no, the idea of this has always been the township doesn't have to pay for anything, and that's still the program we're moving forward on. And that's why the grant is a critical component to the project, and it has been. And this catch-22 has been what we've been kind of going around the horn with a little bit over the last couple of years.
Okay. Any other questions?
Okay. Thank you very
Jeff,
much.
thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for the
you.
update.
We'll move on to item 1, additions and deletions of late agenda items to be considered for action tonight.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. Early public comment on agenda items excluding items listed for public hearings. No one? All right. Number 3, discussions, formal action may be taken. A public hearing, liquor license, Baker and Carlson. Resolution to accept or reject the place-to-place transfer of Pelinary Retail Consumption License 011233021009 to 7660 Harding Highway.
6760.
6760, what did I say? Was I close?
Not if she corrected you.
Okay.
This is a place-to-place transfer liquor license. Attorney Barrera is here on behalf of Baker and Carlson, and after they submitted their application to transfer this license, the transfer had to be advertised, which it was in the press of Atlantic City. And that time, if the township received any objections, then a formal hearing would have to be mandatory. So that's what this is tonight. So at this time, Attorney Barrera can come up and present their presentation to the body, and then the committee can ask any questions that they have, and anybody from the public can then ask questions as well. After that, we're going to ask that that a motion to table this resolution be made for the February 4th hearing. So the actual vote to accept or reject will be on February 4th.
Okay.
So if, Attorney Barrera.
Good evening, everybody, Mayor, committee members. My name is Alex Barrera. I'm an attorney with the law firm Persky, Marone, Bragg, Barrera, and Bailenson. We have offices in Linwood. I'm here tonight with the application before you as described by the solicitor. I just want to go through a few of the drier basic points just to give you some history here and how we're here today. First, I just want to say basically before you is a place-to-place transfer application of a Class C retail consumption license. This license was, the application was filed in February of 2018. The required fees were paid to both the Township and also to the Division of the Alcoholic Beverage Control. Also, as was mentioned, notice has been published in the Press of Atlantic City once on January 3rd and again on January 10 of this year. And as required by the regulation, the hearing can take place within a time frame that fits today. Also, since filing of the transfer application, this has been reviewed. It's been reviewed by the police department. And the client was advised last month that the police department does not have any objection to the place-to-place transfer to the premises that we want to cite this to. I also spoke to Mr. Sandman today, and he verified that that is correct. In terms of some of the background, the history of this license, I'm not going to go way back. That number 9 at the very end of the license means it's basically been transferred 9 times. And I don't know how far back that goes, but basically prior to December 2012, the license was a pocket license that had last been used in 2004. In December 2012, the license was acquired by an entity called Tokyo Sushi and Hibachi Inc. If you recall, that license was used at the restaurant that is in Consumer Square. It's now occupied by Comcast or Xfinity. And then that business closed down. It was acquired by Baker and Carlson LLC. They opened a business at Consumer Square as well. It was called Consumer Square Liquor. That was in 2015. And then that business closed down effective around January of 2017. And now we want to cite that license at 6760 Harding Highway. Now, at the current time, the business that is operating at that location is gone. That will close. The new business operated by Baker Carlson will commence new operations under new management. It's going to be called the Main Event. Baker Carlson, since it was formed in 2015, has the same exact members as it did back then: Harry Carlson and Dean Baker. 2 of them, when they first acquired the license, were fully vetted, they were investigated, and they were approved as licensees. With the license being cited at the new premises, with a liquor license, as I'm sure you're all aware, the ABC laws are stringent. They're vigorous, they're highly regulated. The business will be subject to those rules. It will be subject to the regulatory requirements of the ABC and also the municipality. I just wanted to give you that background for now, just to give you a little history and background. And my colleague is also here, Mr. Stephen Bragg, and he's going to highlight some other areas that may be helpful for your consideration.
Yeah, I have a question for my own edification. How does this work? Is a liquor license when the license is sold is it sold to the person that gets it? Is he a owner of the license and can sell it to someone else in the future?
Yes, so yes, sir. So a liquor license can be owned or held by a person or an entity. What you often see in New Jersey is the liquor license is owned either by an LLC, a limited liability company, or a corporation. And prior to someone owning a liquor license, they have to file a person-to-person transfer application. Now, that had been done in 2015 when Baker Carlson acquired the license. Before they actually closed on the license, they went through an investigation process with the police department. And the police department, the typical scenario is they do a background check on the principals, and they also investigate the source of funds, all of which was done in 2015, and no objections were noted. So when you go to sell a liquor license, it's basically structured as a transaction. You know, there's an agreement of sale. There's filings that have to be made with the municipality, with the Division of ABC. There's also a filing with the Division of Taxation to make sure that there's no outstanding taxes and things like that. And then generally speaking, there's a review process, and eventually you get before the municipality, the governing body, and they consider the transfer application, and they, you know, pass it by resolution, transferring the application to the new owner. And there's a wall certificate. There's a wall certificate that is then endorsed by the township clerk or the municipal clerk and given to the licensee, which is then hung on the wall. And at that point, you can start business.
Can that license be regarded as an investment?
I'm sorry?
Can that license be regarded as an investment on the part of the buyer?
I would suppose it can be. I mean, I guess it really depends on what you call investment, but generally speaking, exactly. I mean, somebody's investing in a restaurant, business, that's going to use essentially like a capital asset.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so everybody, this is my partner, Mr. Broad.
Good evening. I just have a question for the solicitor in terms of the procedure. You said there's going to be a vote on February 4th.
Yes,
Are we closing the proceedings tonight, or are you taking more proceedings on February 4th?
they're going to be closed tonight.
Thank you. Good evening again, ladies and gentlemen. I wanted to discuss with you and even offer up a witness to talk about something I think everybody's pretty concerned about, which is how is this business going to be run? What are we going to do at that site about making sure we don't have problems, making sure we don't have security issues and things like that? So if it's, I have brought in with me the general manager, or the person who will be the general manager of the business. He's a former police officer with extensive experience. He's a security expert, and if it's okay with the solicitor and with the council, I'd like to call him as a witness and have him testify and basically tell you what steps we're going to take to secure this property, make sure that this thing is run right.
That's fine.
It's fine.
Pam Sella? Does he sit in the witness box, or can
Right there at the mic's fine.
just state your name for the record, sir?
Daniel Rosella,
And what's your position going to be at the business that's going to be at 6760 Harding Highway when it's open?
General Manager, sir. Yes, sir. General Manager, sir.
What are you going to do as general manager?
Basically, all the jobs and details of hiring, training, hiring security, training security, ordering, compliance with all ABC regulations to be adhered of.
You have law enforcement experience?
I do, sir, 9 years.
Tell us about that, please.
Full-time with the city of Wildwood for 6 years, and then full-time with Deptford Township for 3 years.
You have narcotics experience?
I do. 2 years with the Federal Housing Authority. I was assigned with the city of Wildwood.
You have experience in the private security business?
I do.
Tell us about that, please.
I'm currently the Assistant Director of Security with Allied Universal Cigna Healthcare.
What do you do in that job?
I'm basically in charge of hiring, compliance, interviews, relations with clients.
You have experience running businesses of the type that are going to be run at 6760 Harding Highway?
I do. I have been general manager prior to at businesses that are identical to this.
What businesses are they?
One was the Crazy Horse and one was Centerfolds.
What kind of businesses are
They were bars, basically go-go bars.
they? While you were general manager of the businesses?
Yes, sir.
While you were general manager of the businesses, were there any ABC violations at any of the businesses?
No, sir.
Were there any problems with criminal activity?
No, sir.
Any problems with law enforcement?
No, sir.
Tell us about what you're going to do to train your bartenders and personnel.
State of New Jersey offers a tip certification, which is done online. It basically allows bartenders to identify subjects who might be impaired, how to serve alcohol, how to identify impairment, and how to properly adhere to what the State of New Jersey ABC regulations are as far as serving customers.
Tell us what you're going to do about security at this premises.
The premises security-wise, we're looking for in-depth training with our security. The State of New Jersey offers SORA training, which is a certification if you're having security on property that the state requires. It's, I believe, a 40-hour course now, if I'm not mistaken. And it goes in depth into security, use of force, appropriate conduct for security, professionalism. We have surveillance cameras, to my understanding, approximately 20 surveillance cameras on property, and basically identifying regulation of IDs, state-issued IDs or government-issued IDs to enter properties. Any establishment that's serving alcohol in the state of New Jersey requires a valid ID when entering properties.
You bringing professional security people to work there?
That's correct, sir.
And how's that going to work?
Typically speaking, when I usually do the interviews for security, I look for former military, former police officers who've retired, who are looking for security jobs. Those typically are your more professional individuals we'll try to bring aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
When you're not there, who's going to be the general manager?
Typically speaking, we bring on, usually most establishments have 2 to 3 management staffs with them, so it would be myself and probably 2 other managers of my picking. So usually I bring somebody in who I've dealt with before, had experience with before. That way it mitigates any problems and it brings into the team effort with it when it comes to running a bar.
And what are the hours of operation going to be generally?
To my understanding, it's going to be 12 noon until 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. I'm not sure exactly what it would run. I believe their establishment that they currently have on property right now is 4, but I'm not sure if that would be changed once they introduce alcohol.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions?
How many people are you gonna have on security?
For a property, I've been on property. For a property that size, usually you'd have 2 people working the front door and you'd have a roving individual working the floor, also a manager on the floor. So you'd have 4 individuals on the floor paying attention to security or security issues.
Are you going to have cameras for security?
I believe right now currently there's 20 operational cameras on site, interior and exterior.
What will the qualifications be for the security?
I mean, as I expressed earlier, what I generally look for is individuals with military experience and law enforcement experience, retired police officers, retired corrections officers. Typically speaking, you're going to get those individuals who have that level of professionalism, the level of control, individuals who are observant. Any business this day and age, even law enforcement itself, is a customer service-based business. You have to be able to interact with the clientele, the public, but you have to also maintain a level of professionalism. That's kind of what I'm looking for. As I said, with SORA licenses, we're looking to get all of our security SORA trained. That way appropriate uses of force, appropriate conduct would be maintained on property at all times.
Will you check for weapons?
Most of the bars I've gone to, we have metal detector, a hand wand at the front door to make sure nobody's entering the property with anything that would be tumultuous or harmful to anyone, including themselves on property.
You will be doing that. You will have the hand wand and you will check, okay?
What is the capacity for patrons?
I believe it would be under the fire code, whatever the fire capacity is. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but we would be monitoring that at the front door.
That hasn't been established yet?
I believe it's established on property.
In our code, yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what the fire capacity is currently.
Okay, and what about situations of like loitering outside of the building, not actually coming in the building, but people in the parking areas, and how's that going to be controlled?
What we would do is we'd have 2 individuals at the front door and then we would have a rover. The rover itself would be responsible for not only working the inside, but also walking to the exterior of the property to make sure you don't have loitering, you don't have individuals who are intoxicated outside the property, you don't have any type of narcotics activity outside the property. Also, there are exterior cameras which are, I believe, in the management office itself, and that would also be utilized in monitoring the parking area.
This will be open to the public. There's no membership required.
No, sir, it's open to the public.
Anybody could walk in.
Anyone over the age of 21 years
Right.
old with a valid government-issued ID.
And the security camera footage would be available to police if needed?
I know there's, any type of criminal activity which would occur or something that would happen, and the police department would need footage of that for their investigation. I'm sure the owners would be more than cooperative with any police department or law enforcement activity which would need to occur on property.
Any other questions?
You mentioned a former property at that location. What was the experience of that business?
My understanding, the property currently there is Pole Positions Gentlemen's Club. I believe it's a BYOB. So as of right now, they do not serve alcohol, it's bring your own beverages.
And what's been the experience there so far in general, if you know?
Experience defined as what, sir?
The community relations, the disturbances.
I don't know the exact police department responses or any incidents they've had on property that would be related to the community. I don't know if they've had complaints from any of the neighbors or anything like that. That would have to be something that would, I guess, have to be asked of the police department.
What would the noise regulation be?
I don't know what the municipal ordinance is as far as distances. I know that the building itself is relatively contained. I know the music, I don't believe you can hear past, I would say 30 to 40 yards off property. I know that I think their closest neighbor is approximately 80 to 90 yards is where the property would start. So I don't believe there would be an issue as far as noise like that.
So there won't be outdoor speakers.
No, sir.
Excuse me, I've just been advised that the fire capacity at that building is 99 individuals, and we're not going to have any change to that.
Okay. Any other questions? Do you have anything else you'd like to present?
No, sir.
All right. I'd like to open this as a public hearing. I'd like to open it to the public if anybody'd like to speak.
Move to close the public portion.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to close the public portion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? So we will have this back up on February 4th for a vote.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Gentlemen.
Number 4, we have public hearing, adoption of ordinances. A, ordinance 1891, 2019, an ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank in ordinance with New Jersey SA 40A 4-4514. Mike, you want to give us a little background on this, please?
Yes, this is the appropriations cap ordinance adjustment. It allows us to go to 3.5% if
Okay.
approved.
This is a public hearing. Anybody in the public like to speak?
Move to close the public portion.
Second?
We have a motion and a second, close the public portion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Yes. Yes, you may. Rita?
Well, that was just to close a public hearing. First, you need a
Yes,
motion.
we need a roll
to-
call on the,
You need a motion to adopt it in a
right.
second, then I'll do the
Okay,
roll call.
thank you. Do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carry.
B, ordinance 1892, 2019, an ordinance authorizing the sale of Lot 12 in Block 24 as shown on the tax map of the Township of Hamilton and granting to the owner and owners of said real property contiguous to same the right of prior refusal to purchase such land in the Township of Hamilton, County of Atlantic, and State of New Jersey. This is a public hearing. I'd like to open this to the public if anybody would like to speak.
Move to close the public portion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the public portion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Do we have a motion to move the
I
ordinance?
move ordinance 1892, 2019.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. Rita, could you give us a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and adopted.
Excuse me. Number 5, introduction of ordinances, public hearing to be held February 4, 2019. A, ordinance 1893, 2019, an ordinance vacating a portion of Volunteer Way. Mike, would you like to,
Yes, sir, Mayor.
one, please?
As everyone knows, Volunteer Way used to be a cul-de-sac. That was eliminated, and now there's a through street, so there's the rounded part of the cul-de-sac that we would be vacating, and plus on the corner of I don't know, the intersecting road. Renaissance, the corner of Renaissance, there's another small piece. It'd be abandoning those to the neighbors, and the neighbors have been contacted and they're receptive to it.
and everything's okay, all right.
And for the record, this came before the planning board also, and the planning members were fine with this too, Mayor.
Very good.
So moved.
You have a motion?
I'll move ordinance 1893,
I'll second.
2019.
We have a motion and a second. Do we need a roll call for this? Just to finalize it? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. B, ordinance 1894, 2019, an ordinance amending Chapter 144 of the Township Code to provide for or amend the fees for certain construction permit applications in the Township of Hamilton, County of Atlantic. I think it's pretty
Yeah, it's
self-explanatory.
making them consistent with the state.
So moved, I'll move them.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. We'll move on to 5C. Let's see here. 5C. Okay. Ordinance 1895, 2019, an ordinance amending Chapter 301, Article 1 of the Township Code to create a no parking zone on the entirety of 13th Street, Adams Avenue, and Tanglewood Drive in the Township of Hamilton. It's your
So
pleasure. We have a motion,
I'll make that motion.
second.
it.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I have a
All
question.
those, oh, I'm sorry, Rodney. Go
Do we have similar ordinances for other streets in the township, or is this the first?
Oh, no, we have no parking ordinances all over town.
Okay.
Have these people been notified?
The
About
property
this,
owners, the budding property owners, no,
Yeah.
no. We do that with the public hearing.
This is their livelihood, so,
Oh, you're talking about the trucks?
the trucks, yes.
Yeah, no. And I would just add for the record that Adams Avenue is, it's just a small piece
Right.
in between Tanglewood and 13th. It's not the other Adams, it's just that small
one
piece
piece,
on
yeah.
13th.
Now, what is the objections to those trucks being there? Can you tell me?
I
A lot of
They've been
people
there for a
complaining.
long
getting
time.
complaints,
A lot
but
of people complaining about it, Judy.
What are their complaints?
They don't like the trucks being parked there.
In obstruction to their vision too as they come down the street because it's the length of the vehicle that's blocking their visibility.
Is that true on Hudson Avenue? Where all those cars are parked on the one side?
I don't know where.
And you have multiple cars parked on one side, you can hardly get past there.
I'm
And
just
the
not familiar, I'm
visibility.
sorry.
What's that?
I'm just not familiar with that, I'm sorry.
It is Hudson Avenue, isn't it? That little street?
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
I don't know where Hudson Avenue is.
That's right in front of the
Runs into Main Street.
folks' funeral
Funeral
home.
home, yeah.
Oh, the small alley, or, well,
The
it's not-
small
Well,
alley.
it's not an alley,
Comes
it's a
down
small.
back.
Nobody should be
Church.
parked on either side. I don't know, I think they should be notified to see if they can move their car, move their trucks somewhere else, you know.
I think it
Now
would be
with
good to
this-
notify them also.
But
I agree with that.
That's fine. Where are we at here? We have a motion?
Motion and a second.
Thank you. All those, any more questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? The ayes have it.
okay, I oppose.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Did you
One
say you
opposite.
opposed?
Judy's opposed.
4 yes, 1
Yeah,
no.
I'm opposed also without notifying the people about this. I think that's only fair.
Call vote? We do a roll call
Sure.
vote on that? So
Go
I'll
right
make sure
ahead.
The record's clear. This is on just introducing 1895.
Right.
Mr. Gishard?
I'm opposed, or no, based on the fact that we haven't notified the truck owners, and that is their livelihood. Seems to be fair to at least notify them. Maybe there's something they can do to appease the neighbors.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
No, I think they're gonna be parking on Park Road, and they're gonna be able to park on Park Road, and it will be an obstruction. So, I say no.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
Motion carries 3 yes, 2 no.
6, awards, bids, contracts, and change orders. A resolution to rescind Resolution 2019-0012, a resolution awarding professional services contract to Peter Sockler of Sockler Realty for New Jersey Certified General Appraiser.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Roll call vote then?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes,
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carry.
B, resolution awarding a professional services contract for New Jersey Certified General Appraiser to Richard Carabelli of Martin Appraisal Associates Incorporated for the amount not to exceed $20,000.
So moved.
Second?
A motion is second. Rita, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
yes,
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carry.
C, a resolution to retain legal services of M.J. Malley Jr. Esquire of Malley Givens P.C. as special counsel redevelopment attorney.
So moved?
Second.
Second.
A motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please, Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
yes,
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker? All
Yes.
yes and carried.
D, we have a resolution to retain legal services of Albert E. Cruz Esquire of D. Francesco, Bateman, Kunzman, Davis, Lauer, and Flom, P.C. as special counsel for cable franchise renewal.
So moved?
We have a motion and a second. Rita, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
yes,
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
E, resolution,
Question, comment. Is it fair to assume we've been satisfied with their services so far?
Yes.
Okay.
resolution to approve change order number 1, 2017 road reconstruction program. Bid number 2017-09, increase of $1,942.68.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
yes,
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Move on to the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through H.
My second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying,
Question.
Is that
okay, I'm
that-
sorry.
Resolution to approve bingo raffle licenses, okay. What about the, none of these are out on the road collecting, are they?
No, sir.
They're all indoors?
Correct.
Thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Matt.
Okay, it's all right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Personnel. Resolution to appoint representative member of the Senior Citizens Advisory Board, one-year term expiring 12/31/19.
I don't think we had a,
Do we
Yes,
have
we do.
anybody?
James Carrigan.
okay, great. The motion was for
I
James
moved the
Carrigan?
name Jim Carrigan, right.
I'll second it.
Did he apply for that?
Yes, he did, yeah.
We have a motion and a second for James Carrigan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Number 9, approvals, minutes for the January 7th, 2019 reorganization and regular meeting.
So moved.
We have
Second.
a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? The ayes have it. Minutes of the January 9th, 2019 special executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We need a roll call for this, or can we just pass it? Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. Minutes for the January 10th, 2019 special executive session.
So moved.
We have a motion, second.
I'll second it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. Minutes of the January 16th, 2019 special executive session.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. B, payroll and bills. Bill list total $3,825,119.87.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Rita, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Shanker?
Yes,
All yes and carried.
thank you. We move on to reports. Mr. Administrator,
Nothing to add to the written report.
okay? Sure? Thank you. Mr. Engineer?
Yeah, Mayor and Committee, I have a report dated January 22nd. I just want to go over some things that have occurred since the last committee meeting. Under the road program, 2018 road program, I make a statement in my report that due to the weather conditions, the concrete curbing on Pennington Avenue is going to be suspended until spring. We tried to get the program off the ground. I had Lambert Construction send out notices, hand-delivered notices to the property owners on the River Road side. I had them place my name and phone number on those notices. A couple of days later, we had snow when we were about to start, so we sent notices, we hand-delivered notices back out saying, until further notice, we're not going to be tearing up your curb and replacing it. So I've been receiving I think 6 neighbors have called me. We're just trying to get the word out that as soon as the weather improves, we're going to be back out there on Pennington Avenue.
And some of that, I understand, is because of the length of time between doing the curbs and then doing the actual road paving. There's a substantial amount of time that those curbs would be subject to damage, weather.
Exactly. We have to be careful. I mean, the curing time for concrete, it's very tight. You know, as we have trash pickup, recycling pickup, it's a tight area. You know, it's going to be an inconvenience to the neighbors. And if it's in colder weather, we're going to need to protect it with blankets. It's going to be safer to wait a little while longer. They're going to have to relocate their cars for some period of time, possibly. So we thought it was in the best interest for the safety, better quality product if you don't need to put blankets on the concrete. It's to no cost to wait 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks till the weather improves. So we thought it was a good idea.
And that was Landberg that thought that was the proper move?
Yes. Well, everybody was in agreement. I spoke to Mike a number of times about this.
Thank you.
Second item I have is I wanted to talk about Main Street. Last committee meeting, you might recall, Ted Marks came in the public portion, and he was very concerned about something that I've been working on since around Thanksgiving, and that's there was a manhole on Main Street at Linwood Avenue, that's been, I use the word seeping, but it's almost pouring out continuously for, off and on for, after rainfalls since.
For days.
And it occurred back in the spring, and I was able to contact Verizon, and they came out and repaired it without me knowing too many of the details, other than they followed up with me and said that they sealed a conduit. You know, and I was curious about that, but it seemed to be working until November. Well, the next morning after our last committee meeting on January 8th, I received a phone call from Verizon. They said, we're here with J. Fletcher Kramer, our contractor. I quickly called Brett. We went over there. There was a full crew. They were ready to pump out the manhole, close that section of Main Street down. And they did, and we made sure it was safe. We contacted the police department. They asked if we can get the water department there to make sure that it's not a water main leak. So I quickly called Steve Blankenship. They sent somebody over, tested. It wasn't municipal water. So from 8 a.m. in the morning till about 2 in the afternoon, they worked on it. Brett and I saw what the problem was. There was a conduit, a 4-inch conduit that had cables running through it. That groundwater was actually infiltrating into that 4-inch conduit, and the water was just pouring out into the manhole. And because it's the low point of that whole area, all the groundwater was getting into. So they showed me how they repaired it in the spring, and this time they cost a lot of money. They don't want to come back a third time, so they brought in different materials to seal the conduit. They removed a manhole down by the intersection of Harding Highway there, and there was some seepage there. They pumped that manhole out, repaired it. So I'm pretty confident this is it. This should be and since they repaired it 2 weeks ago, it hasn't been leaking. So.
Just curious, did they replace the wiring in the conduit?
No, there was a number of half-inch and 1-inch cables that were running through. And I was curious about that, and they said they're waterproof. They'll survive through that conduit.
Okay.
I list in my report a number of ongoing construction projects. Buffalo Pike, they're working on my punch list right now. You can see they're getting the Starbucks ready for opening. They're still saying maybe the first week of March. Outback Steakhouse seems to be moving along a little better. They're progressing. They're talking about the month of May for an opening for Outback. Artist Walk, they're continue to sell houses at a pace of maybe one a week. So they're getting ready for 4 new housing starts on Artist Walk. Wells Springs Church inquired about starting construction, and going to be submitting their bonds here. That's at the intersection of Mays Landing, Summers Point Road, and Babcock Road. That was approved by the planning board about over a year ago. Hamilton Green has been a project that's been approved for a long time. They've started tree clearing. There's 35 buildings and 220 units total, and that's a 2-year project. This is additional phases of Hamilton Green off of the Black Horse Pike.
They're doing both phases?
Yes.
So they'll be, when they're done that's all they have?
That's it.
Okay.
The tree clearing, is that what you're saying?
They've started tree clearing.
Is it because they just don't like them there, or they're...
In order to construct the project, they need to, it's a wooded parcel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I got it. How's that going to affect the drainage?
They have a very extensive stormwater basin. It's been a number of years since those plans were prepared. Pernoni Associates was the engineer that prepared it.
Isn't that where the drainage from from Hamilton Mall, doesn't that go back in that area?
It does. It eventually connects, the overflow.
Adams Branch,
not that there's
that's what I
overflow,
was thinking.
it's the same watershed.
Yeah.
And what's the location of this again?
Do you know where Hamilton Green is?
Yes.
It's adjacent. It's if you drive into Hamilton Green, there's a stub road in there. It's going to be a continuation.
That sub road runs off Leipzig in there, doesn't it?
Exactly.
I know the road.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think,
That's a big place.
special attention should be made for their,
Rick is in the middle of the road.
for their caring about the drainage and where it's going to be, because if it doesn't work, there's going to be more water on Cologne Avenue.
I will do everything I can to make sure that basins are built properly and drained.
Okay.
We had 5 new street opening permits applied for. The other item I wanted to talk about tonight was, back in October, we worked on the MS4 stormwater application for the township. This is an application that gets submitted yearly, and we submitted that up, and it's a series of 6 volumes of predominantly all the work that Brett's been doing. We have 589 storm inlets that Brett inspects and cleans out. And so we submitted the documentation in October. Well, today, we had a audit. It was from the NJDEP. Tim Evansberger was scheduled to come down. He came down and he brought 4 other employees of the DEP. So we had 5 employees in Brett's office for a little over 3 hours today, and they were there to do an audit. And the audit was basically to review all of the stormwater documentation that was submitted to the state. There was a questionnaire that they had our office fill out that was about 240 questions. They came down, they did an audit. They were very, very pleased with all the work that Brett's been doing. They have some suggestions. I'll say no issues or corrections, but some suggestions. Maybe like some of them are the way the stormwater documentation is on our website. We should probably bring a little more attention and label it differently. Some of the record keeping that Brett put together, they deemed it as satisfactory or excellent. So I think Brett's done a really tremendous job staying on top of it. The first thing they did when they came, they walked around the yard, the maintenance yard, and I can't say they were looking for issues, but they didn't leave anything uncovered. They walked around, and Brett does an excellent job just keeping the maintenance of the yard. Where the maintenance work is done, they want to make sure there's no oil changes occurring on soils. They want to look at runoff. They want to make sure that they're not doing any contamination to surrounding properties. So they said this is one of the better, or if not one of the best or better properties and programs that they've seen. So
Did they document those comments or observations?
it's a letter in about 2.5 weeks.
Okay.
Now there's one other person that's going also. A week ago, they came down and did inspections of the stormwater basins randomly throughout the town. They did inspections. Brett maintains, I think it's 11 basins in a township. They inspected those basins. So it wasn't just to come down and look at the documentation. They've been working on this for a while since we submitted in October. But when we have the letter, it'll come to the township. It'll be for everyone to look at. So
Is this a periodic routine inspection?
once every 5 years. We have to update the plan once a year, but they come down once every 5 years.
And that's the state?
That's the state NJDEP. It's the stormwater division.
Are we requiring the subdivisions that have basins to give a report at least annually, how they maintain them?
As a matter of fact, I have a letter drafted up that is due to go out. It goes out in March every year, and I had them review that letter, and they helped us with the wording, and they want a couple more words added to that. But they were pretty happy that we're ready to send those letters back
And
out.
who monitors the state's basins?
I don't
Like the one they put on the corner of Cologne Avenue and 40, which when it does fill up, spills right back out onto the road.
It's working perfectly as far as they're concerned.
It's true.
That's
What a
the
place to
problem.
put a
The same one in
basin.
front of Hamilton Mall where yep.
Yeah. It's been pretty difficult with the high water table too, hasn't it, Steve?
has.
Especially with the amount of rainfall and everything.
The water table, after we had 70 inches of rainfall last year, it's way above the seasonal high table right now.
We're about to get some more, too.
We're gonna get more. So there's one more visit from, her name is Eileen Cull. She heads up a stormwater department at DEP. She's gonna be coming down. She was scheduled to come down last week. She called and said, wait until Tim Evansberger does his report. She'll come down sometime before June 1st. She was here last year and paid a visit to Brett, and she's going to be looking more field investigation is what she's telling me. But she'll read the report that Tim Evansberger will issue in a couple of weeks, and I know Brett's prepared for whatever the DEP comes down and looks at.
Good.
Very good. Anything else, Steve?
No.
Thank you.
We'll move on to Township Committee members. Judy?
Just curious, could you give me an update on the dam, Brett? You know I always will ask. What are the controls for the current conditions?
It's Michael. Tread lightly on the dam, but if you're asking me about what we're currently doing to
What
alleviate-
your future plans are to?
future plans, right now they're investigating replacement of the dam. I'll revert to
Yeah, the county is working on with an engineer to come out with a set of plans now for the powerhouse rehab, and I don't think it includes the tubes yet, but they're also looking at the overall reconstruction of the dam.
But basically, they're looking to rehab the powerhouse to use it as a dewatering mechanism while construction or repair of the dam happens. So that's,
Judy, there was a letter placed in your bin from Jim Bertino outlining everything that the county's working on during this year, and that was one of the subjects that they touched on, and that they're looking at working and redoing that whole area. But they listed every project that they were going to have in our township.
Yeah, he lists the dam in there too.
Who is the, if you've read it, who is the company that's providing all this information?
the county has a engineering firm that they went out to bid for. I'm trying to remember the name of the.
Can't remember the name.
What was it?
I can't remember the name of the company.
But it's
Engineering firm.
an engineering firm. Okay, so it's moving along, but it's going to be, something going to be finished by
They've designed
summer?
the repairs for the powerhouse, and they're right now budgeting the money. The county, they're going to get back to us on a budget because we pay for half of whatever they do there. And construction, they said maybe in September. That last time we had a meeting for powerhouse repairs,
Yeah, okay.
which will probably put us down 2 floodgates. So it's good, but at the same time, we'll go from 5 available floodgates to 3.
So only
if
2?
If and when they do the powerhouse repairs.
So that will limit the number of floodgates that we have
Yes.
until
it'll limit
that's
the amount
finished.
It'll limit our tools to let water out of the lake.
Chair.
Egad. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Brett.
Engineering.
Yeah, we need that tomorrow.
Thanks, Brett.
Our meetings with the county are kind of few and far between. So I think the last time we had a meeting with them was
Been a few months.
probably 5 months now. Met with them.
Yeah, they said late 2019. I think it's going to spill over into 2020.
Yeah, because it
Thank you,
affects
Brett.
it affects the water level of a lot of the basements close to the river on both sides, so it's a very important issue. And 2 floodgates does not sound really great. So,
Anything else, Judy?
that's it.
John?
I just wanted to see if the chief could let us know how the officer that way and the canine animal that was in the accident is doing. I haven't heard anything.
They're doing well,
Both of them?
got
Good.
banged up a little bit, but they're gonna be okay.
Okay, great. Yeah, I have nothing else. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John.
Roger? Well, following up with that, part of my comments tonight were, first of all, there was a great article in the press this past week about the 3 large townships, Egg Harbor, Galloway, and ours, about their redevelopment plans and trying to attract new type of businesses into the area. They mentioned the forefill that you mentioned in the paper, and I thought it was a good article in covering things like the redevelopment and the abatement program, et cetera. One of my concerns with regard to the recent accident, especially when you're doing 55,000 calls a year, Chief, How do we protect our officers who are out on the road every day doing traffic duty, whose obligation is to make sure that our community is safe for its residents and the people who pass through, when they also are getting injured on the job very frequently? I think it's something we have to address, and I think it's becoming more and more serious every day, and hopefully we'll have some solutions to that. And I think there's a number of factors, as you know better than I do, and I see the deputy chief out there shaking his head. I think you're aware of what's causing a lot of the problems, but it's a great concern, because when we lose an officer, and we have other officers out in different things that have been injured or family medical leave, it hurts the department and it hurts overall the community. And I know every time you lose one, it's like losing two. So, I mean, you've got to look at it, and I know you're looking at it seriously, so hopefully we'll come up with some solutions this year. And we don't want to see any of our officers hurt in the line of duty. So, thank you, Mayor.
Rodney?
No, I don't really have any comments at this time.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to give my time over to the public. Anybody in the public like to speak?
Move to close the public portion.
Second?
Motion to close the public portion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Hey, Mike, I was going to ask you